Welcome to Jets Talk and Talking Jets. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined here on this beautiful St. Patrick's Day with our panel. I got Green Bean, Matt O'Leary, and Gang Green. David, we got a lot of Jets news to talk about. Green Bean, say hi to the people.
What's up, everybody? I am psyched to be here. I can't wait to get into this Jets talk for free agency today.
David, how you doing today?
Dude, we finally got some quality pieces. I've been waiting so long for this show. Let's get into this goddamn show. I am fired the hell up.
All right, Matt, how you doing?
I don't know how I can follow that up, but I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited about the McGovern signing today, and let's get into it.
All right, good stuff, boys. We're going to do this the little bit different way, kind of like the Monday call-in show. We are going to talk probably for about a half hour is what I'm going to say, and then we're going to jump into phone calls. We're going to try and keep it relatively short on the phone calls because these guys are not going to be able to hear what you're saying. I'm going to have to repeat the question back to them, and then we'll talk about your question. But there is so much to talk about. Boys, Tom Brady is no longer in the division. Get hyped. What are you guys talking? What are you guys thinking about right now? Tom Brady to the Buccaneers. Matt, I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, honestly, I was pretty surprised. Yesterday on the stream, we were talking about, well, I was anyway. I thought he was going back all along. I just couldn't picture him not playing with the New England Patriots, maybe because he's beaten me down and murdered my soul hundreds of times in the past 20 years. But anyway, it's going to be weird seeing him in a Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniform. I don't know what New England's plan is at quarterback. They still have the best coach in football. So, I mean, we're not out of the woods just yet, but it shows cracks in the Patriots dynasty, which is good.
David, how you feeling?
Well, first off, let me just start off by saying that I think we all know what the next best quarterback in the division is going to be.
Let's just talk about how Sam Darnold is the longest tenured quarterback in the AFC East right now.
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct. And he will soon be the best quarterback in the AFC East. But in regards to Brady itself, I personally would have loved to have seen the Jets beat Brady one more time as a Patriot. But, however, looking at this now, this just opens a wide open opportunity for the AFC East to finally be more competitive for the first time it was in years. Like Matt said, it's definitely questionable to see what the Patriots are going to be doing at quarterback. And it's definitely going to be weird seeing Brady in a Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniform. But, however, you look at a lot of these teams right now, the Jets obviously getting their quality pieces, especially the one they just got. The Bills trading for Stephon Diggs, finally getting Josh Allen, the number one receiver, and the Miami Dolphins with their free agent acquisitions. The AFC East should definitely be interesting. But like I said, we all know who the best quarterback in the division is.
Green Bean, how you feeling about Tom Brady going to the Bucs?
Well, let me say this. I'm wearing my Mo Lewis jersey, which I was wearing the day that, and I was at the game that Mo Lewis crushed Drew Bledsoe and started Tom Brady's career, and I'm wearing it the day that his Patriots career ends. I can't believe it's been 20 friggin' years that we've had to deal with this, but I'll take it. I don't care about beating him in our division anymore. That shit's gone. I just want him out. Let him go down to Tampa Bay and suck with the rest of them. I don't care. Just get out of the AFC. Good riddance, buddy. See ya.
Oh, man. I am so excited for this. Tom Brady has reported they're assuming it's going to be around $30 million a year. I don't think they've actually released the contract details yet. But, yeah, well, a lot of us thought he was going to go to the Titans. Ryan Tannehill winds up getting re-signed there. Then you're thinking the Chargers. Chargers still don't have a quarterback at this point. Teddy Bridgewater signs with the Carolina Panthers, so luckily he doesn't come back into the division. I love me some Teddy Bridgewater. I did not want to see him go to the Patriots. Who do you think the Patriots try to replace Tom Brady with at this point? Matt, I'll throw it to you first.
I'm going to go with a very boring solution. I'm using the term solution in air quotes too because I'm not a big fan of his game, but I'm going to say Andy Dalton. I think he makes a lot of sense going to New England. I don't necessarily see them going for a Jameis Winston. I just think he's a little bit too much, like with the inconsistency there. And I think Bill is going to want someone who plays a little bit more conservative and a little bit more safe, which is exactly what Andy Dalton is. He is about as vanilla as you could possibly be. And I think that Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels are going to see that and say, okay, we can have this guy manage the game similar to what Brady did in 2019 and win by playing good defense and running the football.
I like it. David, who do you think that the Patriots are going to try and replace Tom Brady with?
I was actually thinking of Jameis Winston, but however, now thinking about Andy Dalton being another option, we all know the Bengals are going to get Joe Burrow, and they're probably going to start him day one. So there's a good possibility that Andy Dalton goes there, and I think Andy Dalton will be a much better fit in Belichick's system than Jameis Winston. I think Andy Dalton is more efficient with the ball, and he's obviously a guy that's been experienced in the playoffs, and Andy Dalton's worked with a lot of solid receivers throughout his career, whether people like it or not, guys like A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, Marvin Jones, just to name a few. So I think before the Patriots would actually consider drafting another quarterback, I could see them getting that Andy Dalton for at least a couple of years, maybe even 3 years, to be that sort of bridge, because I think he'd be the most efficient solution for him.
Green Bean, who do you think replaces Tom Brady in New England?
Colt McCoy.
Ooh.
That's who I think. I think
okay.
Colt McCoy's going up there.
A hot take.
That's what I think. Bill Belichick is playing games right now. He is going to tank for Trevor, and we're going to have 1 year reprieve. I'm going to like it. I'm going to kick back. I'm going to enjoy it, but that's what I think's happening. He's not dumb enough to actually try to win this year. He's the kind of guy. He's maniacal enough to sit back, let everybody think Tom Brady's getting the last laugh or something like that, and he'll go and tank for Trevor while we're all partying that the Patriots empire is dead. That's what I think.
Green Bean, Tom Brady was my least favorite person in the AFC East. I think you are my least favorite person in the AFC East right now. I do not want to see Trevor Lawrence in a New England Patriot jersey. That's not happening. No. I'm looking at the chat. I'm seeing people saying Cam Newton. I don't buy Cam Newton going to the Patriots. It doesn't make sense to me. I agree with Matt on Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's contract right now, 1 year, $17.5 million. That's actually... Tom Brady has only been paid more than that twice in his career. So I could see Belichick liking that contract to bring him in. I think he doesn't create a lot of waves. It forces you, or it doesn't force you to take a quarterback at the top of this draft. I think it's a good move by the Patriots. I don't know what you get him for. Maybe you get him for like a third-round pick. I don't think you'll have to give up a second, but the Patriots pick in the second round is probably going to be pretty far back anyway. That's sort of what I think. The Jameis Winston thing doesn't make sense to me. I don't think he's going there. I think Winston's really going out to the Panthers. I think Winston or Cam Newton are going out to the Panthers, one of those two guys, which leaves one of them left to do something. Are there any more quarterback-needy teams that could take on a Winston or a Cam Newton? Matt, I'll throw it to you first. What do you think about these potential guys that are left hanging?
I think the Chargers make the most sense at this point. They are moving to a new stadium soon. That they are going to want a big name guy. That's why I think a lot of people thought Tom Brady might be going there. I thought Teddy Bridgewater might be a nice fit out there, but I could see them moving and trying to get like a Cam Newton. To me, I think Cam Newton, it looks like he's going to be traded out of Carolina. And to me, if I was a betting man, I would bet on the Chargers trading for him. Now, with Winston and Cam both being free agents, there's only one open job with the Chargers. So where does that other guy go? What other team is out there? I don't think Winston gets a starting job. I think he's going to back up somewhere. Ooh, okay. David, what do you think about that?
I would have to agree with the Chargers, but a couple of other teams that come to mind. I think the Steelers could come to mind in a sense. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger's not getting younger. And obviously, if you're a Steeler fan, are you really going to rely on guys like Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges to kind of take the reins? So I would personally see a guy like Cam. I don't know if the Steelers would be trading for a guy like Cam Newton, but I could definitely see them going for one of the other quarterbacks.
Green Bean, what do you think? Where do these guys potentially go? Could Miami be an option? I know they have Ryan Fitzpatrick right now, but maybe they want to put Ryan Fitzpatrick on the back burner and bring in one of these guys. Could that be an option, or where do you think these guys could possibly go?
Well, specifically, let's not forget Miami also has Josh Rosen. They have a packed quarterback room. So, I don't know if they're realistic. I don't think anybody's going to trade for Cam Newton. I think he's stuck. He's going to end up fighting with Bridgewater, and he's going to lose because Matt Rule or they'll end up cutting him and he'll go get a backup job. Jameis Winston, I think it's the same thing. Look, it worked for Ryan Tannehill. A year ago right now, Ryan Tannehill was covered in ash We thought his career might as well be over. He was in Blake Bortles' film, and all of a sudden he's getting a multi-year contract. What was it, $118 million or something like that? I never saw that coming. I think it's a dumb move on top of not seeing it coming, but it did happen. Jameis Winston, he's going to have to sit back for a little while. I can see him maybe going to Denver, one of those types of places, maybe even like an Atlanta. But he's gonna take back up, and I think unfortunately the Chargers aren't going to go for Cam Newton. He's too fragile at this point. They're going to go quarterback in the draft, I think.
Oh, it's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I think Cam, if there's no trade suitor, they saved $19 million by cutting him. I'd be shocked if he goes back to Carolina. That's kind of my thinking on that. Now,
that's a good point.
I'm sure all of us in the chat are pretty hyped up about the new Jets center, Connor McGovern. Woo! Graded out as the number 11 overall center in Pro Football Focus's grading. He is a very good pass blocker. He has been in the league for 3 years, has increased his stock according to Pro Football Focus each one of those 3 years. So the Jets are bringing in a guy $9 million a year, 3 years, $27 million. That makes him about the 14th highest paid center in the league, which is surprising. I'm shocked the Jets got him for that little. Greenbean, what do you think about the Jets' new starting center?
I think Joe Douglas would have signed him yesterday were he not Irish. He waited till St. Paddy's Day and slam dunked it. I was a little bit nervous yesterday with some of the things that we were missing out on. I love Connor McGovern. I wanted him to be a part of our second wave of free agent signings, or at the tail end of our first wave. I'm happy with him no matter how we got him. I love that we signed him on St. Paddy's Day. It's that much more delicious for me. I think it's a fantastic contract. I love it, love it, love it. Changed my day.
David, what do you think about Connor McGovern?
Dude, I'm hype as hell. I mean, this is a guy that I was looking at. I didn't think the Jets were actually going to go after him, but they did anyway. And this is a really under-the-radar guy. I mentioned this in my video earlier. He's a very good pass blocker. He's 6'4", 305 pounds, so he's definitely got that frame. He's got a great wingspan. He committed 0 penalties, I believe, in the 36 games he started. And he's only 26 years old. I think this might have been Joe Douglas's best move so far. I think he's going to be a great building block for Sam moving forward. And he can play guard too. So this could provide some flexibility for a guy like Jonathan Harrison, whether he wants to compete with Brian Winters for the guard position, or if the Jets are going to go out and get that Greg Van Doren or Ben Dorn, or whatever. So great. I'm sorry.
Words.
Young guy, versatile player, great durability. I'm hype as hell for him.
Matt, what do you think about Connor McGovern?
I love it. I think it's a great signing. I think it's good value at what they give him, only $27 million over 3 years. I think that's perfect value for him. I wouldn't be done just yet. I would like to bring in another guard, I think, in free agency, and then I would feel comfortable going into the draft. But I was really satisfied with that move after, the move they made yesterday. I know we're going to get into that in a little bit, but they had to continue to add to that. That's what I said originally yesterday was, okay, that's fine, but what else are they going to do? And today, Joe Douglas showed me that he does have a plan, and it makes sense at center because that's been a huge position of need ever since Mangold retired. So the Jets are finally filling that. And like David said, he's 26, going to be 27 next month. He's right in the prime of his career.
Yeah, this is huge. The Jets get him for 3 years, and now it gives you the flexibility to make a few different moves in those mid to later rounds. Because we were kind of thinking Biadasz in that second round, or maybe Ruiz, depending on what the Jets decide to do in the first round. There's a lot of flexibility we can maneuver now, because now maybe you look at a corner in the draft, or you definitely target wide receiver. I think with Fant, I don't know if he's going to be our starting left tackle. I think a lot of us probably think that he might be competition for Chuma Edoga on the right-hand side because he's played left and right side. The Seahawks moved him all over the place. The plan, I think, from what I've been paying attention to, is they want to do wide line splits, which I had to look up. I never actually knew what this was, but I guess they line up the linemen 3 feet apart across the offensive line, so it creates a longer distance from edge rusher to quarterback just by spacing without even having to go with all that. So he's apparently a pretty athletic guy, and there's a lot of upside. I've talked to a few Seattle fans that are pretty happy with, or were happy with Fant. So maybe he winds up being our left tackle of the future. I think we're still probably in the market for a left tackle at the first pick, but it gives us the flexibility if those top 4 tackles go. Let's say, Cleveland takes a tackle. The Cardinals look like they're going to take a tackle now. The Chargers just signed a tackle, so I think that probably knocks them out of contention for that. But there's still teams ahead of us that those 4 tackles could go to, and it gives the Jets the ability to take a CeeDee Lamb or a Jerry Jeudy or a Henry Ruggs, one of those wide receivers in the first round, or trade down, but one of those potential options that could be the top playmaker on the board and help Sam Darnold. And then maybe you address tackle with maybe an Austin Jackson or something like that at the beginning of the second round. Gives us a lot of flexibility. Greenbean, what do you think the Jets' plans are now that we've signed these 3 offensive linemen, being Fant, the left tackle, you got Alex Lewis returning on his deal to play left guard, and then you got McGovern as the center. What are you thinking moving forward?
Right. Well, I think just like you both said, I think it does give us a little bit of flexibility, which is nice. It's really a bad idea to go into the draft with an absolute need. Then teams know what you're doing. They can jump you. They can manipulate you. There's all kinds of things. This gives us the opportunity to say, hey, look, we're good at left tackle. Whether they believe us or not is another story, but we have them. And this wide split thing is really interesting. It gives the RPO offense a lot of leeway, man. If the guy lines up, the defensive end lines up inside, it's an easy crack back to take him out. If he's outside, you run up the gap that he leaves wide open. So it's really an exciting thing if we can pull this off and finance that guy. So it does look legitimate. I think, like Matt said, we definitely need to go out there and get some more offensive linemen, at least another guard. I'm not sure who that would be. I got some ideas, but at least going to get one of those guys. It gives us that flexibility, but I still think we're going to be shooting for one of the left tackles in the draft. And I would love, if the top 4 are gone, I would love a little tiny trade back, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots, and grab Josh Jones. I think he's going to end up being just as good as the other guys. Incredibly athletic, true left tackle. So I'm excited. I think signing Fant and signing McGovern gives us an incredible level of flexibility. I love both contracts. Love them. I think it's brilliant.
You mentioned the RPO. That's something that I thought we were going to see more out of Sam Darnold. And I think because he had the mono, that's probably why we didn't see it. I think they didn't want to expose him to those extra shots. Because Sam, I think, could definitely run the shit out of the RPO. Then you have Le'Veon Bell. I think this helps him. The run blocking, it's insane. I should link the article that I was reading about this whole wide line split thing down below. I haven't done that yet, but it's really interesting because the offensive linemen gain a lot more leverage on the defensive players. So when you try to knock one of these guys out of the way, it's like moving, say, 300 pounds instead of moving 750 pounds, like if they were lined up 1 foot apart. It's sort of weird. You have to read it and see the graphs that they show, but it's interesting. Awesome. It's a really cool concept. David, what do you think about the Jets and moving forward as far as the offensive line goes? Do you think the draft changes at all, or what should we do next?
Well, I think building off to what Matt said, I think now we can kind of understand the kind of plan that Joe Douglas is trying to develop. As you kind of look at what the Jets have done with these 3 acquisitions so far, they're not willing to overspend. And being that the Jets have gotten some quality linemen, I'm still a little shaky on Fant. But the fact that they're not spending out of their nose for that big name free agent and they're getting some quality players to provide flexibility for the draft, so far I think it's a solid approach by Joe Douglas, especially since Kyle mentioned it earlier. It can provide us some flexibility in the draft to whether or not we want to possibly maybe even draft that CeeDee Lamb. And I think now I can be more on board with that. But however, there are still some teams that are in need of a tackle. And Kyle mentioned it right there on the head. There could be a team that could jump the Jets for that tackle. So now being that the Jets got 3 quality linemen, especially Connor McGovern, I think the Jets should continue to address the line, whether they get that Greg Van Doren or whether they get Steven Wisniewski. They get one more guard, and then they get the tackle in the draft. If they do, I think their offensive line could be set. And then I think after that, maybe you could start looking into getting guys like Brian Poole and Robbie Anderson back.
Yeah, I like it, Matt. What do you think the Jets' next moves are? What do you think about the offensive line?
So I don't really think that the plan should change in terms of the draft. I still think you should take the best tackle available at 11. For me, I think their plan is this. I think Fant is going to start at left tackle this year. and then how his contract is structured, they could either get out of it this year for very little dead cap, or potentially look to move him to the right side and then switch spots with the first round pick from this year. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to move someone into the NFL from college and have them play on the right side versus throwing them right into the left side. And maybe cross our fingers if Wills is there, he plays on the right side anyway. So that might be even easier. And then, like I said earlier, I still want one more guard. I think I would feel a lot more comfortable with how this offensive line is shaping out if they would sign a Van Rotten or a Wisniewski or someone to that potential. I think that would make a lot of sense. And it's not quite there yet, but you're starting to see, the pieces come together, which I think is a positive for sure.
I like that. I like that a lot. Guys, we have 387 people in this stream right now, and we only have 49 likes. I want to see 200 likes. Get me up to 200 likes. I'd be pretty happy with that. I want to see that. And,
you want to get put through a table?
No, I'm not getting put through a table. We hit enough likes. We're putting Mario through a table. We got enough last night to put his ass through a table sometime this season, assuming everyone's all right with this whole coronavirus thing. Oh, no, I dropped the bomb. I said the C word. Sorry, guys. I avoid saying it for like 2 nights. I was like, I'll drop it right now.
Come on, man.
You know what guard's available?
What guard?
Ben Igelana.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You want to take another swing?
Nope. I like that Jonathan Harrison can play center or guard. I like that Connor McGovern can play center or guard. It gives us a lot of flexibility there. We have guys that can play all over the line right now. And I think they're going to let Okudah try to, I don't know. They probably want him to win the starting job. So I think if Fant's competing with them, it gives them the flexibility, like Matt said, to cut Fant next year. Or, Okudah winds up becoming a backup either way. I'm happy with it because if we wind up swinging and hitting on Fant, then all of a sudden you have a left tackle or a right tackle at $10 million a year. That is significantly cheaper than any other left tackle you could have gotten. Guys, I think that, wow, we jumped up to 133 likes. I like that. Good stuff. That was I looked away for 2 seconds. That was awesome. Guys, if you have not joined the Jets Discord down below, screw it. Let's do a question. Let's do a question of the day. We'll give away another shirt. I want to blow up that Jets Discord.
The one yesterday was good.
The question yesterday was good. That was a solid one. I gotta look one up. I don't know what I want to do. The question yesterday, I think I said CD Lamb something wound up winning. I wound up going in and seeing that he actually won last week or a few weeks ago. So I wound up picking another person later on in it. But all right, if you guys want to answer, actually no, I can't even do it. I didn't even post it in the Discord. Sorry guys.
Hey, I got a question.
No question of the day. Actually, no.
Who the hell is Ben Igelana?
I don't want Ben Igelana. Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here, Ben Igelana. Now, so what's the Jets' next move in free agency? I think we've all heard the rumors that they're talking to Robbie Anderson. I think it's a good thing that we haven't heard Robbie's name mentioned with any other teams right now. I am a little concerned with the Dolphins because they're making a lot of moves down there, and Robbie's, he's from Plantation High School. That's within a half hour from Miami. You could see him start to get a little bit excited and maybe want to work his way down there. Maybe he gets a similar contract to what the Jets are offering him. The Jets are apparently around the $10 or $11 million range, according to Connor Hughes, and Robbie is around the $15 million a year range. Green Bean, what do you think happens with Robbie? Are the Jets getting him back? What do you think we get him back for?
Well, look, I happen to have an inside man. Now, I don't do this very often, and he's not too far inside. He's kind of like an outside-inside man, all right? Or an inside-outside man. What he told me today was that the Jets, that he's literally number one priority right now. The Jets are at 12. Robbie wants 15, and they're working on it. There is interest elsewhere, but nobody's blown him out of the water as of yet with that 15 number. So that said, I agree with you. I think the fact that we haven't heard a peep is good news for us. I don't think that's bad news. I think that he's still working on. I think that he's still working on it with the Jets and would like to be here if all things are equal. And ultimately, I think he's ours. That's what I think it's going to end that way. Robbie Anderson will be a Jet.
I hope so. Matt, are you feeling the same way? I'm seeing your head and shaking.
Yeah, 100%. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the longer that this goes on, it's the better for the New York Jets. And it's been dead quiet. You haven't heard anything with Robbie Anderson's name. I think that makes a ton of sense, what Green Bean was saying from his guy. I mean, right now, we've known all along that Robbie wants close to $15 million. The Jets don't want to go that high. It doesn't seem like any other team does. It's just about working it out and figuring, in middle ground, maybe they settle on 13, who knows. But Robbie coming back is definitely a good thing, and it looks like all signs are pointing to that, which I'm extremely excited about for sure.
David, what do you think about Robbie potentially returning to the Jets? You think he comes back?
I think he does come back. I mean, I was a little concerned with Amari Cooper re-signing with Dallas and then AJ Green getting franchise tag. I thought the market for Robbie would be going a little bit higher, but now the fact that not a lot of teams are really just kind of gouging for him, willing to overpay for him, and being that the Jets want to bring him back, and it looks like they've been working on a deal for quite a little bit of time now. I think it's going to be possible. I think Mac hit it on the head. I think Kyle hit it on the head right there. I think they're going to come down to that middle ground, and I'm going to give a bold contract offer to what I think Robbie's deal will be. The chat might not like it. You know what? It is what it is, but this is just my guess. I think the deal is going to be a 4-year, $50 million deal, and I think Robbie Anderson gets 25 guaranteed.
I think you're probably I think you're probably right in the wheelhouse. I think that makes a lot of sense. All right, I'm going to open up the phone lines so guys can start asking questions. We're going to keep the questions relatively short because they're not going to be able to hear the question. You're going to say it towards me. I'm going to repeat the question to them. So phone lines are now open if you guys would like to call in. I think the Jets' next move after Robbie, we all, I think, are on board with this Brian Poole. I still want to go after a pass rusher as well. Dante Fowler is, I'm licking my chops. I would really like to snag him at some point. Matt, what do you think about outside of the Jets' own free agents?
Yeah, I think outside of the Jets' own free agents, and besides one of the two guards I mentioned earlier, Fowler is definitely someone that I'd be interested in. I want no part of Jadeveon Clowney. I think I made that pretty clear. I think he's overrated for what his price tag is going to be at $20 million. I think that's insane. So.
All right, boys, we got our first caller. Jake, what's up, dude? Welcome to Talking Jets. What is your question?
Hey guys, how you doing tonight?
Too good. I'm very, very stoked on everything the Jets have just done in the last hour or so. What's your question, brother?
Yeah. So my question is that, of course, we're talking about Robbie Anderson, and we obviously need a receiver. But I've been reading some reports, and this was in the last month or so or the last few weeks, and I know Joe Douglas is not big on wanting to splurge for a big guy, but in light of everything Miami's doing, and especially Stephon Diggs with the Bills, my question is, do we pull the trigger on a third-round pick or whatever the case may be, not a first or maybe a second, for Odell Beckham? And I'll let you guys answer it. I'll hang up.
Ooh, awesome. Good question. So the caller is talking about wide receivers, and with, whether we sign Robbie or not, the Bills brought in Stephon Diggs, the Dolphins got stronger. Is there a possibility now that the Jets are looking to try and get Odell Beckham Jr.? And what would that compensation look like? Green Bean, I'll throw it to you first. What are you thinking about this topic?
Look, I've gone all over the place and said that I don't really want to sign him. We talked about this a few weeks back. It's not the guy I would go for. That said, I think it's absolutely what's going to happen. I think Avery Williamson's involved, and I also think that it's going to be a number 3 and some players or like a future pick or something like that. I don't think the Jets are willing to give away their second, although they may for OBJ, but I think it's going to happen. That's what I think is coming. I think we're going to sign Robbie and land OBJ, and then we're going to argue about that, whether it's good or bad. That's what I think.
If we land Robbie and trade for Odell, I might, need to change my pants. that would be the Jets' best wide receiver core we've had in a long time. Probably we're talking Lavernius Coles, Santana Moss. That's probably the last time the Jets had a really, overly good receiving core. We're also getting Chris Herndon back. David, what would you think about Odell Beckham Jr. and the Jets?
Sorry, I was kind of governing the thought of Odell and Robbie in the same tandem. But, in regards to Odell Beckham, I said in a previous video of mine that I wouldn't want to trade out of my nose for him because I've said we weren't in the position to be really over trading for a guy like Odell Beckham. But, however, if the Jets don't re-sign Robbie Anderson, and I think it does take that compensation that Kyle was talking about, if they take that maybe third-round pick and even a player like Avery Williamson, now bring that legitimacy over here. I would not mind for the correct compensation. I'll take on that contract. I think you take on that contract, you can give up considerable compensation for a guy that's considered elite talent. I think it definitely would beat paying Robbie Anderson $14-15 million a year. So we'll see what happens with that. But Ryan, I would have to agree with you with Odell and Robbie. I would probably have to change my pants myself.
So, Matt, what do you think about Odell? Do you think it's realistic that the Jets would get Odell and Robbie, or do you think it would be one or the other? Like maybe if we lose out on Robbie, that's when we kind of pull the trigger on Odell.
I think it's kind of one or the other. Now, I mean, I would love having both. But there's a thing called the cap, which I think is going to make it tough to keep two guys who would be getting close to like $14-15 million against the cap at that position. And then you have Crowder who's making, I think, $9 or something like that. But anyway, that's not the point. I think it's more of if Robbie leaves, then it's pivot to, okay, we'll give you, I don't know, a third this year and then something else.
Yeah.
And a conditional in 2021. And let's get this done. I wouldn't bet on it. I wouldn't mind that as an option if Robbie's not coming back. But I think plan A, and it's been made pretty clear, is bring Robbie back.
Yeah, I think so. I think I want Robbie back in this sort of situation. If I can get Robbie back for $12 million a year, even $13 million a year, that would sort of be the route I'd like to take. Odell, his personality scares me. I could get on board with a third in Avery because I think we're going to wind up cutting Avery anyway at some point. I mean, don't get me wrong. I want to see Avery on the same field with beer's coming back up. I want to see him on the field with Mosley at the same time. V-Man, thank you very much for the $5 donation. OBJ and Robbie would be the best wide receiver tandem since Don Maynard and Greg Sauer Jr., without a doubt. By the way, goodbye, Brady, live. Check it out. So, Matt, the video that Vinny was talking about is live, so we're going to have to check out that video at some point. But I am very excited to not have Brady in this division anymore. All right, let's jump into the next caller. I'll throw that back up there. I would like to get Odell. I like Robbie. Robbie's got to be plan A because I honestly, rather than, it's probably, if I get one or the other, I'm still taking a receiver at number 48. That's kind of where I'm feeling, unless we get CeeDee Lamb. Costas Katstulis, thank you so much. What if Okudah falls to 11? All right, hold on one second. Casey, hang on 1 second. Costas just asked us a question and donated $5, so I'm going to get to his question real quick. Just stay on the line. Just stay quiet for me. Okudah, if he falls to 11 guys, what do you think the Jets do? Matt, I'll ask you first.
No, I don't. I like Okudah, but I don't think you could take a corner in that spot. I think you got to go offensive line still.
Now, what if the top four are gone and it is Okudah that's there? Are you taking a wide receiver or are you trading out? Or, I mean, maybe you don't trade out. Maybe if you have to take the pick.
If I have to take the pick, then I would take a wide receiver in that spot.
David, what do you think?
I think I'm on verge with the same thing. It's not a year where we should be drafting defensive players. We've drafted too many defensive players throughout the last few years or so. Get some offense on this team finally, whether it's the lineman or the receiver, or you trade back. Get a receiver on the team or any offensive piece of continuity.
Green Bean, what do you think about Okudah if he falls to 11 and the 4 offensive linemen are off the board? Green Bean.
I think he froze.
Green Bean froze. No. Green Bean, where are you at? All right.
Perfect meme though. I ain't gonna lie.
It's great. Yeah, he's locked in over there. All right, brother. Thank you for waiting on the phone line. What is your question?
So I've done some scouring on the internet, and I've seen Chris Harris has had some talks with the Jets. So if they don't sign Brian Poole, what do you think about Harris signing with the Jets?
All right, so caller's question is asking about Chris Harris Jr. There's been some rumors that the Jets are going to talk with him. Do you think he is an option for us as far as a replacement for Brian Poole, or do you think he would be an addition with Brian Poole? Green Bean, I'll throw it to you first. What do you think about Chris Harris Jr. Thank you very much, NJ Monkey. 4 years since Odell had more touchdowns than Robbie. Ooh, dropping some fire. And he's also healthier. Robbie's way healthier than Odell's been, too. Green Bean, what do you think about Chris Harris Jr.?
Well, let me say this about Brian Poole. On his Instagram today, he had that picture of him surfing. Mm-hmm. Did you see that? And he was indicating that it means something.
Okay.
So I tried really hard to make that about the Jets. I really struggled to try to add up that was good news. It made me think he was gone, either surfing away or going to Miami or California or something like that. So that said, sadly, I do feel like Brian Poole is in danger of leaving. I'm not the biggest Chris Harris fan in the world. Didn't he hold out last year too for Denver? He wanted more money for that last year. Yeah, I don't know. I think he's going to be trying to get a lot of money. He's a good player, but I'm not the biggest Chris Harris fan. Take it what it is, you know?
Yeah, I don't particularly want Chris Harris. I would love to get Brian Poole back. I did not see the picture you're talking about, but if he has posted a picture of surfing, there's no way that has anything to do with the Hudson or the Atlantic.
Right.
Like up here, you're talking Miami, you're talking West Coast, the Chargers or the Rams, one of those teams, maybe San Francisco out there. David, what do you think about Chris Harris and Brian Poole?
Well,
Green Bay? Green.
Well, I mean, I've made the case several times, especially in previous videos of mine. I am not really a fan of overpaying for a corner, hence the whole Tremaine Johnson thing. That's why I did not want Byron Jones. That's why I wasn't exactly the biggest fan of Bradbury either. And a guy like Chris Harris Jr., he's a good player, obviously, and he would have been a much better player to have maybe it was like a few years ago. But now being that I think we need to get younger at corner, which is why I want to bring Brian Poole back. And there were a couple of free agent options out there. I wanted Kendall Fuller, but he went to the Redskins. He went back to Washington. I wanted Desmond Trufant. I mean, he's still a young option. Maybe you wouldn't get him for a lot of money, but who knows? Maybe he'd want a big contract. So in regards to Chris Harris Jr., good player, but the age and the contract demands are what kind of steer me away from him.
Matt, what do you think about Chris Harris Jr. and the Brian Poole situation?
For me, I think Chris Harris Jr. is just too old. At this point, I don't want to sign a corner who's over 30 years old. Brian Poole, I think, is, if not comparable, maybe slightly worse than Chris Harris Jr., but it's going to cost you a lot less. I thought he was really, really good for the Jets last year. I would make that one of my big priorities, bringing him back. And I just don't want to pay a cornerback over 30 years old. I know he's a big name. He's more of a slot guy. It wouldn't be like, bring both in. It's one or the other. And if I had my choice, I'm going with Poole.
I feel like, you know how dogs feel when fireworks go off on 4th of July? That's how I feel when I hear paying a cornerback that much money at 30 years old. I get PTSD from the Tremaine Johnson contract. I have no desire to pay a 30-year-old corner. Now, that said, I am definitely on board with Brian Poole. I definitely would like to bring him back. He's number one priority for me on the defensive side of the ball. Like I could kind of forget about Jordan Jenkins a little bit, but Brian Poole would be number one. Other corners that I would probably look at, I've said Darby. He's not very good. He didn't play well last year. He's on a bad Eagles secondary, but he's got the connection with Douglas. I think he's going to come cheap. You might be able to catch lightning in a bottle with him playing in a better secondary with Jamal Adams, Marcus May, Bless Austin. I don't know. Is Roby still out there, or did Roby sign somewhere?
No,
Go on, man.
He's signed? Ah, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's bring in the next caller. Cornerback-wise, I kind of think corner is going to be a draft need. I think it's going to be a third-round pick.
Agreed.
That's sort of what I'm thinking. Oh, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. 462 people in here. And how many likes we got? We got 184. Come on, guys. Get us up to 200. 250. I'm being greedy tonight. 250 I want to see on there.
Oh, my God.
All right. We got a caller on the lines. Shaq, what's good, brother? Dunking on people.
Hey, Ryan.
what's
Big fan of yours, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a question. So let's say the top 4 linemen are gone, and you see CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy sitting there. Do we trade down, or do we draft Jonathan Jones when trading down after, or do we just take CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy?
Ooh, good question. Good question. All right. So the caller asked, should the Jets, if the top 4 offensive linemen are gone and Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb are both on the board, would you trade down and try to get Jones the tackle, or do you take one of those wide receivers? And if so, which wide receiver would you take? David, I'll throw it to you first. What are you thinking in that sort of situation?
So wait, the question is basically saying either draft CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy or trade down to get Jackson the tackle?
Jackson or Jones, one of the tackles at that point.
Oh, that's a tough one. But I'm going to go with what I've been saying. I'm willing to trade. I'm trading down. I'm taking the tackle, and I'm getting more picks, especially now that we know that Joe Douglas wants to go through the draft. You get more picks. The more picks, the better. And we're going to have to hope that Joe Douglas is hitting on these picks. So if you could trade down, get more picks, and still address that final need of tackle, dude, I'm all in for it, honestly. I think a guy like CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy would be my plan C, just because, like, I think the opportunity at trading down and still getting a tackle if all 4 linemen are gone, like, that opportunity I think is way too good for me.
Nah, you know what's too good for me? Getting CeeDee Lamb, who's going to be the next DeAndre Hopkins. I want CeeDee Lamb. I want a reason to draft CeeDee Lamb in the worst way. If all 4 tackles are gone, the wide receivers are there, I'm taking CeeDee Lamb. I don't care. I don't know how far you'd have to trade down if you wanted to take the tackle. I mean, I would listen. I'm not going to say without a doubt I'm taking Lamb, but I love CeeDee Lamb. I have a big old chubby for CeeDee Lamb.
I'm not saying any good. I would love the pick. If we take CeeDee Lamb, I would absolutely love the pick. I would not pick at all. Like, I absolutely adore it. I love it.
Green Bean, what are you thinking about if the 4 tackles are gone, Lamb and Jeudy are on the board? Who are you taking, or are you looking to trade down?
I'm trading down every day of the week. I'm trading down because this is how I see it. I think the drop-off after Josh Jones and maybe Austin Jackson, who I'm not the biggest fan of, I think the drop-off from them to the next batch of tackles, the Perts and Trey Adams of the world, that drop is so much more significant than the drop from Jeudy and Lamb and Ruggs to Justin Jefferson, Chenault, Rieger, those types of guys. I would much rather have Josh Jones and with the pick we pick up for the trade down, grabbing Chenault in the second. I think that's all day of the week. I would take that. Would I be unhappy with CeeDee Lamb? No, but I think that's a McCagnon easy pick as opposed to doing a little bit more work and gaining more. No shot.
Oh, he's getting me fired up over there. Matt, what are you thinking? What
shot at CeeDee Lamb like that? Come on, man.
I know. I feel bad. I'm sorry.
Matt, what are you doing in that situation?
See, that's so tough. I'm glad I'm not the general manager for that reason, because I wouldn't want to make that decision. I like both CeeDee Lamb and Jeudy a lot, but I still think the bigger need is offensive line. So I think I would move back and take Jones. I like Jones a lot better than Jackson. I'm not really a big fan of Jackson. I would put the big 4 pretty close. Little step down, Jones, and then another step down is Jackson there. So I think I would move down and take the offensive lineman and then use my extra picks and maybe take a couple of swings at wide receiver in the 2nd and 3rd round.
DJSIN6, thank you so much for the 99-cent donation. I'm going to buy myself an Arnold Palmer with that because I am thirsty for some offensive linemen, some wide receivers. We need to help Sam Darnold as much as we can. I'm going to open up the phone lines again. I have no problem with trading down. I could get on board with that because you guys make a lot of sense. There's a lot bigger drop-off from the tackles than the offensive line, or tackles from the wide receivers. Like, you can get a number 1 wide receiver in the 2nd round. Oh, man, I really love me some CeeDee Lamb.
Call from
Angelo.
Angelo, what's good, brother? Welcome to Talking Jets. What is your question?
Oh,
no, he hung up. All right. He got stage fright. He goes, I didn't think I'd get it. I forgot my question. It's all right. It's all right. 471 people in here. How many likes we got on this video? Come on. I want 250. 232. Boys, let's do it. Come on, 250. Get me up to 250. I'm gonna be greedy. I'm gonna start going for 300. I'm gonna start going for 300. I like it. I like it a lot.
And 0 dislikes, Ryan.
Well, you know what? You had to say it, David. Go over to David's channel. Just dislike all his videos. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. He's being a real jagaloon over there.
Oh no, let's not do that.
I think, okay, so trading down. Oh, another caller. Here we go.
Here we go.
Call from
Gene from the Bronx.
Dude from the Bronx. What's up, dude? You're on Talking Jets. What is your question?
Yes, sir.
What's on your mind?
Yeah, we get that tackle in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
We get that tackle in the first round, and then in the second round, I wanted to know if we would get Claypool, Rager, or Ayuk.
Ooh, okay. Interesting question. So he's saying if we take the tackle, any tackle, in the first round, and we go into the second round, who are we taking at wide receiver? He mentioned Claypool. He mentioned Rager. There's going to be a few guys that could possibly be there. I know we've talked about maybe Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins. Some of these guys could fall a little bit. Mims, maybe. Matt, who do you think the Jets should be targeting, or who would you like them to target at 48 at wide receiver?
That's a tough question because it depends on who falls out of the first round, because there's a bunch of receivers, and I think after the top two, you kind of flip-flop them for who you want. Of the guys you mentioned, I think Mims is a fit. I also think that T. Higgins is a fit because he's a bigger body red zone kind of threat. Rieger, from my understanding and from what I've seen, is more of like a slot guy. And with Crowder already in the mix, I think that would be a little bit redundant. So I would look for more of a bigger body receiver.
I like that, David. Who would you target? Ooh, DJSN $6.99 donation. I mean, 200 Palmers. Talk about trade up scenarios, please. We'll talk about trade up scenarios after we talk about this question with the wide receivers at number 48. David, who are you taking at 48 for wide receiver?
Well, considering how stacked this draft class is, I agree with Matt. It actually really depends on who falls, because a lot of people are talking about getting Justin Jefferson or T. Higgins. To be honest, I think those are guys that could probably fall maybe as late as maybe early second round. I think Justin Jefferson goes early first round. I think T. Higgins maybe goes early second round. And I believe we're picking 48, so that's like mid second roundish. So I would have to agree. I mean, Mims is definitely a guy I'm looking at. I'm also definitely looking at Claypool a little bit. But however, if we don't draft a receiver in the second round and we can get a steal with Michael Pittman, who we've been talking about, I would be on board with that too.
Green Bean, who you want at 48?
Laviska Shenault. If Jefferson, T. Higgins, if those two are gone, I'm a big Laviska Shenault fan. But David brings up a good point. I'm a huge Pittman Jr. The only problem is I actually think he's making it to the third. That's what I see. And if he's there in the third, he's an easy snatch. I don't know if I'd grab him over Laviska Shenault if they were both there. Shenault's a beast, 6'2", 220, man. He's a beast.
All right, so I got to do a little bit of research on Shenault, because I'll be honest, I've done my research on like Mims. I've looked at T. Higgins. I've looked at Claypool. I love me some Justin Jefferson. I have a hard time believing he's going to get out of the first round. Like that's my guy if he's there. I think he seems to me like he could be the best wide receiver in this draft. I mean, I love CeeDee Lamb. I thought in the Alabama versus LSU game, I thought Jefferson was the best. So let's say he goes in the first round. I'm probably looking at Mims. And then, God, after that, I don't know. I do like Pittman in the third a lot. I think the concern is maybe does Pittman not make it to our third round pick, and then you're sort of left with maybe not so much of that first round talent in the third round. Like I think I don't know if you should roll the dice on Pittman being there in the third. I'd be okay with double dipping if you want to do that. Like if you want to take a wide receiver and then if you really like Pittman at either one of your third round picks and he's still there, go ahead, pull the trigger. But I think offensive line wise, first round, wide receiver, second round, Mims, a bigger body target, kind of like Matt was saying, is probably where I'd like to go with that pick. Yeah. Now, DJ Sin6 says trade up scenarios. Now, we'll cover a few things because that could mean a lot of different things. I don't see the Jets trading up in the first round. I could see us trading back into the first round with our second round pick using a third round pick or something like that, or trading up into the second round pick using 2 of our thirds. Matt, I'll go to you first. Are there trade-up situations for the Jets?
Not in the first round. I just don't think they have enough capital to move up in the first round. I don't think it would be smart moving back would definitely make more sense, like we talked about earlier. If those 4 tackles are gone, then I would be completely okay if they decided to move back instead of taking one of those wide receivers, as enticing as that may be. I could potentially see them moving up in the mid rounds. I would think at the back end of the second, maybe with their third and a fourth, maybe, or something like that. I think that's probably the spot where you'd be at, is late second, with because you have 2, third round picks.
Dave, what do you think about a trade up situation?
I think the most I would do is probably trade back up in the second round. Personally, like, I'm not a fan of trading up in the first round, especially being that, like, we don't have enough capital to possibly trade up for a tackle. So if I were to actually look at a Justin Jefferson and he was my ideal target, honestly, if it wouldn't cost that much to trade up for him, and if I were able to trade back up into the first round and get Justin Jefferson, that would be my best bet. But, however, I think the best bet would be to kind of maybe trade out of the third round, especially being that you have 2 third-round picks, and maybe go back up into the second with your top third-round pick.
So I like the idea of going back into the first round from 48 with one of our third-round picks. If a receiver we really like, someone we really covet is there, I'm okay with doing that because you get that 5th-year option on the contract, and I think that is really valuable. Now, if you think there's a few, like if there's 3 wide receivers you like or 4 wide receivers you like that are sitting there towards the end of the first round, of course, wait till 48, take the receiver there. And then I could see us moving up back into the second round, like you guys have said, with the 2 third-round picks. Maybe you give up a third-round pick and a fourth-round pick so you keep one of your thirds. It sort of depends how high you want to get. Green Bean, what do you think about the trade-up situations, and where could you see the Jets trading up?
Well, I agree that we're not trading up in the first unless it had something to do with just a player, throwing a player in the mix. We're not giving up draft capital to move up 2 and 3 spots. I don't see it. There's too much talent in this draft, and we don't have enough capital to do so. I agree with you, Ryan. If Justin Jefferson is sitting there at 30, which is Green Bay, or 31 San Francisco or somebody, and they're willing to take our second, third, and number 48 to jump back into the first for Laviska Shenault or Justin Jefferson. Jefferson, I seriously believe he's the best receiver in this draft. I think he's going to outperform Judy and CeeDee Lamb. I love him to death. I think he's going to have a longer career too. Why? I don't know. I just think that. But so I would do that. I'd be willing to trade up for that. I would hope we don't have to, because guys like Shenault are going to be sitting there at 48, in my opinion. So I don't want us to trade up, but I could see that happening.
So you guys know that the trade-up spot that I think could happen for the Jets, and it's another Ozzie Newsome connection, Baltimore's sitting there at 28. Now, if you look at the trade value chart, to make a move from number 48, which is 420 points, to move up to Baltimore, which is 660, you're talking 240 points. That puts you at about the Jets' first third-round pick. That's what it would take to get up to Baltimore's pick, if that were all even. Now, that's always, circumstantial. It's not actually set in stone. Guys want, if there's a good player there, you might have to pay a little bit more. If they're looking to move back, maybe pay a little bit less. But I think Ozzie Newsome may want to help out his buddy, Joe Douglas. Joe S., thank you very much for the $1.99 donation. Can we trade Adam Gase for a pick? Fact, we can trade Adam Gase for a pick. Yeah. I don't think anyone's going to do it. I would pick my nose and get rid of Adam Gase.
Matter of fact, the Jets have done it twice. I think we're the only team in the league to actually trade coaches for picks. So we've not only done it once, we've done it twice.
So it's Herman Belichick?
We received a pick the first time. The second time we actually traded. Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. I didn't realize that, because the other coaches that I can think of, Gruden, I think, went from Tampa to Oakland, or Oakland to Tampa for, I think it was a first-round pick. I think it was a pretty high pick at the time. Yeah, it doesn't happen often, but I would say the whole chat's blowing up. Fire Gase, fire Gase, fire Gase. Wow. Jesus Christmas. That's amazing.
My God.
All right, let's open up the
phone. Adam Gase for a bag of Pringles, or for a can of Pringles. That would be the only thing I would trade him for.
A can of Pringles. I might trade him for some toilet paper, given the economic situation. We got a caller on the line.
Call from
Travis from Ohio.
Travis from Ohio, what's up, brother? Welcome to Talking Jets. What is on your mind?
My man Ryan.
I like it.
Nice.
Hey, I will stay on the line because I have a couple questions for the entire panel.
You got one question. Fire away. or rattle them off quick, because I have to try and remember them because they can't hear you.
Okay. Number one, what's in your bottle?
What's in my bottle? I have Hogarden. It's kind of like a Blue Moon style beer. Very good, light. 4.9% alcohol, so just enough to give me a little bit of a buzz while I'm hanging out with you guys. All right, what's your second question?
All right. Fair enough. Second, we all played fantasy GM with like all the tackles and offensive line and everything else. Douglas's moves compared to big dumb splashes from McCagnon, Idzik, Critter Mike McCagnon, or Tannenbaum. I'm sorry.
I got you. I understand.
Yeah. And I know I had a wish list too, but most of these don't work. I mean, look at Vince Young's dream team in Philly, right?
Oh yeah.
So I'm trying to speed it up. And how smart was he for not cutting guys to create salary space now? Because a lot of those guys on our wish list were franchised, right?
Oh yeah.
So now they're trading pieces that we could get draft capital or maybe some building blocks.
So anyway,
towards next season.
5 hours later.
All right, I'm cutting you off. Interesting question. Okay, so what he says is the Jets have not made the huge splashes like they did with Tannenbaum, like they did with Idzik, like they did with McCagnon. We went kind of the cheaper route, more of the discount brand free agents. What do you think of the Jets not making the cuts like they have in the past to generate a lot of cap space? So we have pieces to possibly trade. Not that I think Brian Winters on a $7.5 million trade contract is going to get traded, but I think Avery Williamson at like 6.5 is an interesting option for teams. Green Beans brought it up. I think if you could swing him to Cleveland to maybe get yourself Odell on a maybe giving up a little bit less of a draft pick, if you give up that first, third round pick and Avery, someone who we would have cut anyway, I think that's a valuable trade chip. But what do you think, Matt? I'll throw it to you first. What do you think about the approach that Douglas has with the bargain bin kind of free agents as opposed to the big splash signings like a CJ Mosley or like a Le'Veon Bell?
I think part of it is plan B, because I truly believe if Joe Thuney hit the market, he was going to come here. I think he was going to get signed.
Agreed.
So I don't think we'd be talking about this if that were the case. But I think he's shown that he's not willing to panic and overpay for someone because he missed out on his guy. I think that's what we've learned from the last 36 hours or however long it's been.
Mm-hmm. David, what do you think about the approach Douglas has taken instead of the McCagnon Tannenbaum kind of approach?
I would have to agree to a sense. I think part of it is a plan B, but I also believe part of it is kind of a bridge to the draft. Like I said, I think if Joe Douglas does draft well in regards to tying it along with signing all these other free agents, I think that's definitely a sufficient plan. But however, if he doesn't draft well and we have to start cutting guys within like maybe 1 or 2 years or so, I don't want to say this, like I hate myself for saying this now, especially since we're all excited about the moves that he's made so far, but we could look at a possibly another John Idzik situation in a sense. But however, it all comes down to the draft now. I think this is a bridge towards the draft at this point.
Green Bean, what do you think about Douglas's approach?
Well, look, here's what I'll say. I want so badly to believe what Matt just said. I think like there's 50% of me that is on that side of things. He's cool, he's calm, he's collected. But I was told today that he really wanted Graham Glasgow. He tried less for Conklin. Conklin's $20 million was way out of what he was willing to pay. He let go of that one early. Graham Glasgow, we were in till the end. There was $2 million dividing where Joe Douglas was and where he ended up getting signed. And he was in the words that I heard, he got cold feet. with signing him. So now take it with a grain of salt. That's literally how I was told. Take it with a grain of salt. But so here's what I need a second for this one. So
go for it.
What I think Joe Douglas is trying to do is he's trying to play the comp game. He's trying to not just sign everybody and lose all the potential comp picks when the players that are on our roster can be comparable. If they're not a huge upgrade, he's factoring in the potential comp pick as part of the value for this player. So then their monetary value and positional value factor in with the comp pick value, and that's the full package of whether or not he's willing to sign a Glasgow when an Alex Lewis is there. Is Graham Glasgow that much better than Alex Lewis to pay that much money and factor in the potential comp pick? So that's how he's doing it. That said, that's what I'm hoping he's doing. He does have that upbringing. Both Rossman and Newsom think that way. So there's that. The other side of it is he's a first-time GM, man. He's green. He's nervous. It's his first time with the keys to the car. He's driving 45 and a 55 right now. That's what we're potentially seeing as well. And he's getting his ass kicked by some seasoned GM. So I think it's a little bit of both. I do think that Joe Douglas is not Idzik. He's not McCagnon. He's not Tannenbaum. We're talking about accountants, man. That's who they were. This is a football man. Look at the size of his neck and head. He plays football. Okay, so we have that going for us. He's got the pedigree. I think he's making some rookie mistakes. I think he should have signed Graham Glasgow and Alex Lewis for that matter. But that's what I think is going on here. It's a little bit of both. We do have our GM. He's going to end up being fine. It's not all falling the way he wants it to fall this year because he's nervous.
Now, Greenbean, you said something very interesting there. You said that there was a $2 million difference between what Glasgow got and what we were willing to give him. Now, he got $11 million a year. That means he was offering $9 million a year for him. And oddly enough, Connor McGovern plays center and guard just like Graham Glasgow does.
And he paid him how much?
$9 million.
$9 million. That was his budget for that position. Now, that's a good thing. It's a good thing unless you're rigid like Idzik was. Idzik, he established the values and he wasn't even willing to discuss it. So I think that Joe Douglas, again, is not Idzik, but he clearly had his value when you factor in Alex Lewis as well, and maybe even Winters for that matter. He's not just going to sign guys and lose comp picks when we have a guy on the team that's 85% as good as this guy. You know, do you see what I'm saying?
Oh,
and
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
where the guys that's where Hairston and Mollett and Powell and McMunk, that's where these guys are going to start to come in. We're going to start seeing them sign more guys from our own roster if they can't get the guy they want for the money they want when you factor in the potential comp pick. And then, in truth, I love it. I think it's the smart way to do things. Why the hell should Bill Belichick be the only guy with 7 comp picks every year? You know, and then there's us scrambling, like Matt said. He said the exact word. Why are we the ones panicking to give C.J. Mosley $17 million a year when the closest guy was at 13? Why are we doing that? So I think it's good. At the same time, I think it's not all his plan either. He's getting smacked around a little bit out there, I think.
So we got Dan O donating $2. Thank you very much. Cut Roberts and sign a cornerback in free agency. He says Trufant for cheap. Guys, what would you think of the Jets going after Trufant? I'm looking at the cuts right here. If we were to cut Darryl Roberts, I believe it's $6 million we wind up saving.
Yeah, I think
$6 million. Now, let's see what Trufant was getting. So last year, 2019, he got $13.9 million was his cap number. His cap hits since being cut, I mean, he was going to get 15, 16, 14 million. So I think he's going to be pretty high. Would you take the $6 million that you gained from a Darryl Roberts and use that and apply it towards Desmond Trufant? Matt, I'll throw it to you first.
I would. Yeah, I think he still has something left in the tank. Is he worth $14 million a year? I'd say probably no. But if you can tell me I can get him for $10 million a year, I'm probably doing that.
David, what do you think?
Looking to Desmond Trufant, I would. He's kind of a youngerish option. I think he's definitely better than almost every single corner we have on the roster. If you can get him for a suitable contract, by all means, bring him here. He comes from a team that's went to the Super Bowl too. His man-to-man coverage is definitely interesting. So he's a solid corner, but it just depends on the contract.
Green Bean, what do you think about Desmond Trufant applying $6 million to the contract from Darryl Roberts to get Trufant? Would you do that?
Trufant's better than Roberts. Roberts sucks, man. That guy needs to go. He lays some nice pops. He's a good hitter, but that guy was getting burned and made the fool all year. If that was an even swap, sure, I'm not giving Trufant any more than that. I'd like to see them grab Prince Amukamara, and I'm okay with paying them. And you want to know why? Because he was cut, and he doesn't go against the comp picks. And Douglas likes that, I hear.
Ooh, Green Bean's dialed in. The comp pick formula. We talked about this in our group chat prior to this whole meeting, and he brought up the whole comp pick thing. Good teams draft well, sign the players they can, let go of players that are pretty good, and get comp picks. You get more cheap players on 4-year deals that you get, because those picks are going to be basically a 4th round pick, because it would be a late 3rd round pick. So 4th round pick through a 7th round pick, you're getting guys under contract. I think it makes a lot of sense. Just so you guys know, Trufant is 29 years old. I thought he was a little bit younger than that. His Pro Football Focus grades have been pretty good. He graded out as the 32nd best corner last year with a 70.3. He's pretty much been about the same for the last 5 years, 72, 70, 75, 69, 70. So he's right in that wheelhouse. I think if we could get him for like maybe $10 million or $9 million, I'd probably do that. I think he might be able to command more on a shorter term deal, and I think at that point it's probably something I would shy away from. Pat Vito, thank you so much for the $5 donation. It says message retracted, so I have no idea what your question was. I'm trying to look in the chat, see if there was anything there, but thank you very much either way for it. Let's open up the phone lines, try to get another caller on the line. So yeah, cornerback-wise, I like Prince Amukamara. I wouldn't have said that, but I think if he doesn't count against our free agent formula, that's really interesting. We got a caller.
Yeah.
Peter.
Good stuff.
Peter, what's up, dude? Welcome to Talking Jets. What is your question?
Maryland.
Well, since you guys were talking about cornerbacks, my question to you guys is, out of these two, which one will you prefer most, Chris Harris Jr. or Logan Ryan?
Ooh, okay. So good question. He says, since we're talking about cornerbacks, who would we prefer more, Chris Harris Jr. or Logan Ryan? Now, I think from an age perspective, I'm pretty sure Logan Ryan is significantly younger. I could be wrong on this. I'm not totally sure. So Logan Ryan graded out as the 62nd greatest or best cornerback. James Bradbury was 68, by the way. So keep that in mind.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't realize he was that low. Chris Harris Jr. graded out as the 34th. So if the money's comparable, what's his age? What is the age on Logan Ryan? I got to find that
29.
out. 29. So Chris Harris Jr. I think is 31 or
31.
31. So you got a 2-year gap. Oh man, that's a good question. That's an interesting one. I'm probably going with the younger guy here, but it's probably more of a Greg Williams decision on which guy plays better. I don't know if they both fall in the same type of scheme. Like I couldn't tell you if one guy is more of a slot corner or one guy's more of a zone or press man cover corner. I would like more of a press man cover kind of guy. Matt, what do you think of those two options?
I don't love either of them, to be honest with you. I would try to avoid signing cornerbacks approaching 30 years old if you can.
I think that's kind of where I fall too. David, what do you think about that?
I would have to agree. I mean, I think Logan Ryan's going to want to demand a huge contract, and that's what's going to kind of steer me away from that. So if he wants a lot of money, and being that he's almost 30, nah.
Green Bean, what do you think?
If that's Peter from Maryland, I think the dude has constantly praised Logan Ryan every time I've talked to him. So,
Green Bean, what are you thinking?
Exactly.
You know what? I'm gonna be real honest and tell you I don't really have that much data on Logan Ryan. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, I'd rather see that. Shaq Ahmad, thank you so much for the $5 donation. Since Joe Douglas is close with Howie Roseman, would you guys accept Alshon Jeffrey and Avery Williamson trade, including picks from the Eagles? Now, Alshon Jeffrey has definitely regressed. He hasn't really had a very good season, and I think it's like 5 years now. He hasn't really been very good. His contract is abysmal. And Avery Williamson, if the Jets could move him, I feel like if the Eagles wanted to move on from Alshon, I don't know if they would take a player. I think they're just looking for some kind of cap relief. If they want Avery Williamson and the Jets could get cap relief from that, bring in a guy that's a big body target in the red zone and get picks, I could do that. I don't mind the Jets losing cap space to gain picks if we're not going to use that cap space anyway. Green Bean, I'll throw it to you first. What do you think about a potential Alshon Jeffrey, Avery Williamson plus picks kind of trade there?
With all due respect to Shaq Ahmad, this is going to sound harsh, but it's not directed toward you. I think we got to let go of this Alshon Jeffrey thing. The guy, he is a shell of his former self, and he's paid like one of the top 5 receivers in the entire league. If we take him on, that would be a favor where Howie Roseman owes us something. Okay, that's how bad of a trade that would. Even if they gave us picks, he would have to owe us something in the future. That would be an absolute favor. The contract is an albatross, and the player, he's not going to. Number one, he can't stay healthy. Number two, he can't really play that well anymore. Demaryius Thomas would be a safer bet, just keeping him on the roster than getting involved in the Alshon Jeffrey stuff. In my opinion, that's how I see it.
So I went over to Over the Cap just to kind of figure out what his contract would be. He's 30 years old. He's 6'3". His contract, if traded before June 1st, is not very good. This is a trade that could happen if the Jets wind up missing on receivers in the draft, because if they trade him post June 1st, the Eagles wind up saving $9.9 million, and the Jets would wind up being on the hook. So 2020, 2021, it would be $9.9 million and then $12.75 million. So I could get on board if the Eagles want to create cap space after that June 1st kind of situation, because $10 million and $12 million, it's a lot. But if we wind up missing on some of the wide receivers that I prefer in the draft, I think that's a route you could possibly consider, especially if the Jets were getting draft picks back. They'd have to be future draft picks, though. That's the only thing. Unless they can designate him a post-June 1st trade. I don't know if you could do that. You could designate a post-June 1st cut, but I'm not sure how trades work in that respect. Matt, what do you think about Alshon Jeffrey and the potential kind of there?
I agree with what Green Bean was saying for sure. I want no part of Alshon Jeffrey. If this was 5 years ago, this is a completely different story. But the fact is, he is not anywhere close to the receiver that he once was. He can't stay on the field. There's so many other options that you can do in free agency for a lot cheaper with a lot higher of a ceiling than what Alshon Jeffrey is going to give you in 2020. That would show me that Adam Gase is really running the show and not Joe Douglas, because we know Adam Gase likes his guys, and he worked with him in Chicago in 2015. So just go with the other Adam Gase guy in Demaryius Thomas for like a fourth of the price.
Yeah, $2 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever it is.
You could get him for way cheaper. David, what do you think about Alshon Jeffrey and potentially getting picks for him?
Well, I'm personally dropping this whole Alshon Jeffrey thing. As a guy who interacts with a lot of Eagles fans, especially Eagles content creators, they've constantly have told me how much they're begging for Howie Roseman to get rid of Alshon Jeffrey. And I think the big reason for that is, of course, Kyle and Matt mentioned it already. It's because of the relationship with the production and the contract, and the age is also in between as well. You look at the scenario where this isn't Alshon Jeffrey from 2017, especially the one who was that big body guy that will make all the plays. This isn't the Alshon Jeffrey from the Bears. This is a guy who is constantly getting hurt. He's up there in age. And if you were to actually get him now, Ryan, you mentioned it earlier, we would have to take on that big contract where I believe all his guaranteed money would be this year. So the whole Alshon Jeffrey thing, I'm wiping out completely. I want no part in a 30-year-old receiver. I'm not interested in giving up compensation for him. That is completely out of the table for me.
Yeah, look, based on the contract, the health, and the production, it would have to be something pretty generous for the Eagles to give up for me to want to actually make this happen, because there's a lot of options for the Jets. I still want to bring back Robbie. I still want to draft a receiver in the second round. I think I think it would be tough for me to want to take on Alshon. All right, guys. I'm going to try and get another caller in here. See who wants to call in. 478 people in the chat. Guys, hit that like button. Let's get us up over 300. We're at 270 right now. I know we can get over 300. All right, we got a caller.
Call from
Bernard from North Carolina.
Oh, Bernard, brother, what's good, dude? Welcome to Talking Jets. What is your question?
Hey, how you doing?
Hanging in there,
Yeah,
hanging in there.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, okay. Now, yeah, if the tackles are gone and the way things are shaping up in free agency quite nicely, now would you be in favor of trading down, or is Lamb and Judah on the board? Who do you take?
Ooh, okay. So we're going to kind of get into that again. Bernard from North Carolina says, with the way everything's fallen and possibly the tackles going with Judy and Lamb, I think we're all kind of on board with possibly trading down because the value is in getting more picks with the wide receivers being a deep draft class. So I'll kind of answer that sort of for everyone. I'm very big on CeeDee Lamb. I want an excuse to draft this guy. Dan O, thank you for the $2 donation. Replace Jenkins with Marcus Golden, who had 10 sacks. Love you? Is that what you're saying? L-Y? I think that makes sense, right? All right, so let's look at Marcus Golden. He was 84th ranked.
Thank you.
84th ranked edge guy. What was Jenkins? Jenkins was, whoops, got to turn off the phone. I'm getting phone calls in my ears. Jordan Jenkins was 55, so it would be an upgrade. I'll be honest, I have not done any research into Golden at all, so I cannot speak intelligently on this topic. Do any of you guys...
A lot of Giants fans actually like Marcus Golden. He actually had one of his better years as a Giant. And he can definitely set the edge pretty solidly. I think I can kind of compare it to Jordan Jenkins in that sense. His burst off the edge is actually pretty solid. So a guy like that on a cheap deal, I would actually take that. Take that.
Matt, do you know anything about Marcus Golden at all, or Green Bean, any of you guys? I'll be honest, I did not do too much research into him because he's probably around that Jordan Jenkins range, and I kind of would have preferred just to...
Yeah, he's Jordan Jenkins.
Yeah.
Jordan Jenkins. But with a touch more production, so why not?
Yeah, hey, if you're looking at roughly the same contract for either one and you want to bring one of those guys in, I'm fine with taking the cheaper of the two, or, if it's close, giving the more productive guy. Pat Vito donated $5. Would you swap picks with the Eagles and also get their second rounder, as well as take Alshon Jeffrey? Would you swap picks with the Eagles? I read that completely. I butchered that completely. I got Alshon Jeffrey on my mind. Would you swap picks with the Eagles and also get their second round as well, and take Austin Jackson or Josh Jones at 21, and then take a wide receiver and a cornerback in the second round? I think that's a realistic possibility where the Jets and Eagles could be trade partners, because if those 4 tackles go in the top 10 picks, all of a sudden you get the relationship. I think Baltimore and the Eagles, those are the two teams you got to look for either trading back or trading up. And I would move back to 21 and take their second, but I'd probably have to get another pick because you're falling 10 picks. That's a pretty far fall. I don't exactly know. Where is the Eagles' second round pick right now? They are sitting at 53. So you'd have pick 48 and 53 and 21. I would need to get, I think, another pick in that for me to want to fall back that far. Green Bean, what do you think about trading with the Eagles?
That's too far, man. I would need more. Agreed. That's too far. We're not going to get Josh Jones at 21. I don't think he passes Miami at 18. Mm-hmm. If with what they're doing, and there's a few more teams in there that could be playing around with the last offensive tackle of note in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Jumping back to 21 for the right to pick the guy at number 53 isn't enough for me. I would need more, and Alshon Jeffrey ain't it.
So I'm looking at the draft value chart right now, and for us to fall back to 21, it would be about a 450-point swing, and the 53rd pick is 370 points. So you'd have to get probably their second-round pick and maybe their comp third with an additional pick, or their third-round pick if they're really I would say you'd get their second and third round pick would probably get that done. It would be a little rich. I think they'd be coming up for Henry Ruggs, honestly, because I think they want that burner to possibly replace Deshaun Jackson in the future. Matt, what do you think about the potential of trading down with the Eagles?
Not for that price, because I think I'm going to want a little bit more. I'm not opposed to the idea of trading back, but if you're going to move back that far, you're going to have to sweeten the pot a little bit for me in order to do so.
David, what do you think about the trade down?
I would have to agree with Kyle. Personally, I think if you trade down to 21 and you're gonna get the best tackle, I think it would be a reach. Honestly, I think the furthest down I would trade would be to number 15 with Denver, because I think they're going to be heavily invested on a receiver, and I definitely think you have a better shot at landing a Josh Jones or one of the other tackles where you're not exactly reaching for that player. So I think trading back to 21 would be too far, because I think there's a possibility that you could reach for a guy, which I don't want to do. The furthest I go, it would probably be down 4 spots with Denver.
So looking at the picks between the Jets and Denver, that would be Las Vegas. So the Raiders, the 49ers now own the Colts pick. Then you have Tampa Bay, and then it would be Denver. So I don't know. I have no idea who San Francisco's targeting at 13. I've heard rumors they want to move back because they don't have many draft picks. I think we were talking last night. They don't have a second, third, or fourth round pick, I believe. Is that correct, Matt? Do you remember if that's – am I talking out my butt right there?
Who's that? Sorry.
San Francisco, actually.
They don't have a second, third, or fourth.
Okay, so I could see them wanting to trade back from that third, from that 13 pick. God, I would go back as far. I could go back to 21 if I got enough value. I'd wind up taking a wide receiver, I think, at 21. Yeah. At that point, if the 4 tackles are gone and I'm not necessarily sold, if one of those 4 tackles was there, you'd have to be reserved to the possibility of not landing one of the top 6 tackles then. And I mean, maybe you take an edge rusher. I know AJ Epensa or however you say his name. And then there's 2 guys that could go in the top 20. Maybe you get one of them there. That's a far fall for me. I don't think I'd want to do that.
It's too far. We need a tackle. This is the draft of the tackle, man. This is a gift from God. The fact that we need a left tackle, and there are 5 of them. If we trade out of the range to get one, I don't care if they give us, all their 3rds, 4ths, and 5ths. Like, it's just, we're not going to get the tackle there. And it's not, draft chart value is one thing. The player need has to come in at some point.
I agree. I think tackle at 11 is more important than moving back and getting, maybe an extra pick. If those tackles are gone, you don't like the other 2, there's a lot of guys on your board you like, fine, I can get with that, but it feels like it's too far to me. We'll open up the lines. We'll get another phone call in here. Guys, we got 471 people in here. What are we up as far as likes? We're up to 294. This is ridiculous. I don't like any of you people. I want to get 300. Come on, guys. Let's get to 300. I know we could do it. No, I love all you guys. All the passengers in here. Really enjoy you guys. All right. Caller on the line. Caller on the line.
Joe from Long Island.
Joe from Long Island. What's up, brother? What's on your mind?
Oh, Long Island. Favorite place.
Hey, what's going on, man? Quick question for you. We obviously haven't had a pure pass rusher since John Abraham. I know obviously tackle is important, also wide receiver. What do you realistically think the Jets can do either in free agency or the draft to address the pass rush?
Ooh, I like it. So we're going a little bit different route here. Everyone's kind of talking offensive line, wide receiver. This caller wanted to know about the pass rush. We haven't had an edge rusher since Jonathan Abraham back in 2005, I guess, because we drafted Mangold in 06. So what do you guys want to do about the pass rusher situation, whether it be in the draft or in free agency? Green Bean, I'll throw it to you first. Who are you kind of eyeing?
I'm really hoping for this Fowler thing to happen for us. I really am. I mean, look, we got to spend our money somewhere, right? So we're not blowing the doors off of the cap with Conklin. We're not going for Amari Cooper. I mean, we're going to maybe hopefully have Robbie Anderson, but we have some cap. I think Dante Fowler coming in here, we know he's not going to be a 20-sack guy, but he's going to be consistent. He's always providing pressure, even when he's not landing the sacks. I don't love the pass rushers in this draft. There are a few, Okudah, a few guys I like, but this is the draft for Sam Darnold, in my opinion. And even though a pass rusher is needed, I agree with that 100%. I'd rather get Fowler for a few years and draft a pass rusher next year. This is the draft of the offensive lineman and the wide receiver. That's what this draft is providing. Take what the draft gives because it happens to be our two biggest needs. Don't go outside of that too much. So I'm hoping Fowler. That's my number one hope.
So you guys know Fowler is going to be 26 years old in August. So he's still very, very young. And as far as his grades go on Pro Football Focus, you can take this with a grain of salt. Fowler graded out as the 35th ranked pass rusher with a pass rush grade of 73. Clowney graded out as the 20th with a pass rush grade of 76. So Clowney's obviously a much better run stopper and kind of disruptive force in the background, but Fowler's really not too far behind him, and I've been on the Fowler train for like 3 years now. Since I've wanted this guy for a while. I would like to go this route. Thank you so much, Dan O and Jesus, for the $2 donations each. Dan O says sign Sanders to replace Thomas for cheap. DeJesus says, what about kicker? The Jets need a kicker. So let's talk about let's talk about edge rusher first, then we'll get into these two questions. David, what do you want to do about the edge rusher situation?
Honestly, I think I'm leaning towards Dante Fowler, especially you kind of look at him and Jordan Jenkins. I'm definitely in for bringing Jordan Jenkins back, and I'm also in for bringing in Dante Fowler. Now, I think you look at each pass rusher, I think each are very similar in their own way. I think Dante Fowler has more pass rush ability, but I think Jordan Jenkins is a guy that can set the edge a lot better. But, however, if those two are demanding the same contract, I would much rather bring the better player overall. I'd rather not overpay for a guy like Jordan Jenkins. If the Giants want to overpay for him, just like they're probably going to be overpaying for everybody, by all means, Giants fans, enjoy another Jet player, even though you constantly like to trash us. But yeah, you pick up our leftovers anyway. Dante Fowler, I'm willing to bring him in, especially at a considerable price. And he's going to have to be that number one pass rusher, being that he's a guy that's come from a lot of solid defenses like the Rams and the Jaguars. So I would actually bring him in, being that this pass rusher market's insane. You can bring him for a considerable contract, and being that Joe Douglas now is a guy that is not willing to overspend, by all means.
I think so. When we're talking about Fowler, he was on a 1-year, $12 million deal with the Rams. So I think you got to figure he's going to be somewhere around that. I don't know what Beasley just signed for. I don't think it was a whole lot, but I think he's better than Beasley. I'm thinking you're probably going to have to get him somewhere in the $14 million a year range. If you want a 1-year contract, maybe you can get him for like 12 on a multi-year deal. Matt, what do you think about edge rusher for the Jets?
Yeah, I'm really big on Fowler. I know you guys mentioned him. I think it makes a lot of sense. He is more of that pure pass rusher that the Jets have been lacking. I know yesterday they had their name in the hat for Kyle Van Noy, who I think is a fine player, but he's not a pure pass rusher. He's
right.
He does a little bit of everything. He had 6.5 sacks last year. I think that's his career high. Fowler has the potential to be a double-digit sack guy consistently, where Jordan Jenkins might run into 8 coverage sacks a year. Kyle Van Noy might do the same thing. If it were between one or the other, in Jordan Jenkins or Fowler, I'm going with Fowler, and then having a guy like, Basham play on the other side, and you'll be completely fine with that.
Right? Yeah, I think I agree on that. There's not too many people. Last year, I really wanted Justin Houston. I think you could have had him on a relatively good deal for a 1-2-year deal. I want no part of Clowney. I know some guys are talking in the chat. What about him? He's going to get $20 million. He's got a ton of penalty problems. When I did my F, Marry, Kill series, he had 50 penalties in the last 4 years. I think the next closest person was like 24 penalties. So the guy's a penalty machine, and he's only on the field for 75% of his snaps, or 75% of his games. That's tough for me. I'm taking Fowler there. Let's talk about this. Sign Sanders to replace Thomas for cheap. What do you guys think about that? Obviously, Emmanuel Sanders played with Gase in Denver. it would be sort of similar. I think Thomas is going to be way cheaper than Sanders. I think Sanders still thinks he's got enough in the tank, and I don't want to pay him as much as I think he's going to want to get paid. And he's 31, I believe. Matt, what are you thinking with Sanders?
Emmanuel Sanders is 33, by the way.
33. Woof.
I want no part of Emmanuel Sanders. I would hate that. I think after he was traded to San Francisco, he had one really good game where he went over 100 yards. And then in like 4 of the last 5 games, he had like 40 yards or less. I think he also is more of a slot guy with his size. And again, we're getting into the conversation of that being redundant with what Jamison Crowder already is. I would at that point rather bring Demaryius Thomas back for pennies than go out and sign Emmanuel Sanders, who's probably looking for that one last payday. I don't think Joe Douglas is going to be the chump to do it, though.
I think you're probably right. David, what do you think about it?
I would have to agree. I mean, being that he's 33 years old and he's kind of on his last legs, he definitely played solid-ish last year, but he played with a winning team like San Francisco who actually running balanced offense. You bring him here, especially if he's going to demand a good amount of money. The cheapest I would go for Emmanuel Sanders would probably be like maybe $5 or $6 million, maybe $7 million. But being that he's 33 years old, I would much rather bring back Demaryius Thomas. I mean, he's that better source of continuity for Sam, even though he would technically be considered that stopgap kind of guy. So I'm off that Emmanuel Sanders bandwagon.
Greenbean, what do you think about Sanders or Thomas?
Yeah, well, I think it's a great plan, but he's not coming cheap. I mean, that's the thing. Just like everybody said, he's going to be at least double what Thomas wants. It's not apples to apples here. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders may be a little bit better, even at his age, but it's not going to be so significant that you want to pay twice as much for a guy at that point in their career. Not really.
Yeah, I think we're kind of all on board with that. Eddie DeJesus says, what about a kicker? The Jets need a kicker. Now, I sort of fall in line with bring in 2 guys into camp, just let them compete. I would be okay with Hot Rod Blankenship from, in like the 6th round or something like that, bring in a young guy. I just want someone that's going to consistently make kicks. I don't really care who it is. I don't have a favorite person. Do any of you guys, Matt, I'll throw it to you first. Do any of you guys have a kicker you're particularly eyeing?
I don't really have a name in mind. There wasn't anyone that I looked at. It was like, oh, I definitely want him to come in. I don't think it's something that you should definitely overpay for. I certainly wouldn't draft one, but I would, look for an upgrade there. I wouldn't be surprised if they, tried to upgrade that position.
Greenbean, what do you think about the kicker situation?
Oh, man, we need to use our one of our 2-6 for Hot Rod Blankenship. That's what I want. I want the number 1 kicker in the country for a 6. I want to be yelling Hot Rod all day.
I like Hot Rod. I like the guys with good nicknames. They tend to do well, or at least I like to believe they do well. David, what do you think about the kicker?
Walking around with the name Hot Rod is confident.
Listen,
dude.
Give me one of the hot rods with the 6th round pick. Have him compete with Brett Maher in training camp, and boom, there you go. You got your kicker there.
Right on.
Okay. I could get on board with that. So Costas Katsoulis, I can't pronounce that friggin' name. I'm so sorry. $2 donation. Thank you very much. What if we trade Bell and draft Swift or Taylor? Now, I'd have to look where Swift and Taylor are probably going to go. I thought they were going to wind up landing in the 1st, or at least one of them landing in the 1st. I would move on from Bell. We actually talked about this yesterday on the panel, and it turns out if you were to trade Le'Veon Bell post June 1st, let me pull up the numbers just so you guys can actually see it. It's actually pretty favorable. Trade post June 1st. So this could be a trading chip in season. I don't think we're going to be able to move Bell before the draft where we could take one of these running backs. So you'd have to pull the trigger on the running back in the draft first and then move on from Bell later on, unless you're looking to eat cap. But teams would have draft picks would have cap hits of about $13 million for 2020 unless you traded him at the deadline, in which case you're looking significantly cheaper. What do you guys think about trading Bell and possibly drafting a running back pretty high? Greenbean, I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, well, let me say this. And we did touch on this before. I would love to see what Le'Veon Bell could do here with an actual offensive line. Last year was horseshit. We all know that. It's not his fault. He may have been a pound two or two heavier. I don't know. But he was getting hit number one out of any running back. Like the time between handoff to hit, he had the least time out of any running back in the league. So there's that. That said, if we could trade him and get something for it and just bring in a young kid and not pay him $13.8 million this year, that's not a bad plan. So I think I would just defer to whatever they want to do here. I'm not the biggest Le'Veon Bell fan, but I don't hate him. I think he got a raw deal here.
David, what do you think about trading Bell and taking a running back relatively high? We're talking maybe second round.
It's not a bad plan, but also at the same time, I would actually like to see what Le'Veon Bell could do behind an offensive line, like Kyle said. We know the talent that Le'Veon Bell has as a player, and also I think the contract is definitely interesting to where I don't think anybody's going to really wait towards the deadline to trade for Le'Veon Bell. I think that's a little bit of a hot take, considering that this almost happened last year. But I want to see what Le'Veon does behind the actual offensive line itself, and drafting a running back that high, unless he's the next Saquon Barkley or even Christian McCaffrey, I don't know. I mean, it's a tough call.
I'll tell you what, if the next Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley is there in the second round, you take him. But it's not happening. They're top 5 picks, top 10 picks. Matt, what are you thinking about with Bell possibly trading him, using like a second round pick on a running back?
Now, that goes against a lot of my draft philosophies. I'm usually someone who looks for like a mid-round running back because I think you get pretty good value there. For me, listen, you brought in Bell to help out and make life easy for Sam Darnold. Give him that chance. Last year was a complete crapshoot. Darnold missed the 3 games with Bono. Yeah. And then the offensive line was an absolute joke. I really want to see what he could do in this offense, even with the 2 cronies calling the offensive plays. I just really think that we owe it to ourselves to see what this guy could do. So you paid him all that money. You're going to cut him after 1 year because he was, behind a lousy offensive line and the coach ran him in the A gap 152 times? No, it's crazy.
Yeah, look, I was more than anyone. Dave's got the clip of me going and losing my bananas when we signed Le'Veon Bell. I am the biggest Le'Veon Bell supporter that you could possibly have, and I really want to see him behind this offensive line. I understand the thought of trading him and moving on from that contract. Oh, he's got it there. That was the reaction last year for the Le'Veon Bell signing. I believe in the guy. I think he's really good. I would not move on from Le'Veon Bell. I mean, if you could get someone to take the contract, maybe halfway through the season, if you see it's not working with the Jets, I'm okay with that. But I really want to see him behind that offensive line, and I'm not taking a running back with the second round pick. We're not in position to do that. You can get a first round wide receiver talent that could help Sam way more because you already have Bell in the backfield. Just sort of my 2 cents on that. All right, let's try to grab another caller here. Do that. Matt, you got to hop off at 10, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, I got to hop off at 10, correct.
Okay.
Hey, real quick, you guys want to hear how many teams offered Brady a contract?
How many?
Why he signed with the Bucks.
I love it. Sean. I got a call. Sean, what's up, dude? Welcome to Talking Jets. What's on your mind?
Hey, I just want to ask you guys, how do you guys feel about the franchise being in Sam Darnold's hands? Do you guys think he's the franchise QB for the future, or you guys think you're going to have to make some moves?
Ooh, we're about to have some fighting right here. So he's asking, well, how do we feel about Sam Darnold with him being our franchise quarterback? Do you think he is the guy of the future, or do you think there is a situation where we're going to have to make some moves in the near future to secure a quarterback? I know my stance. I'm fully behind Sammy Sticky Lips. I think he absolutely deserves to be the franchise quarterback for the Jets. I think he's going to own all the franchise records for the New York Jets when it's all said and done. Matt, what do you think about Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. He's 22 years old and was in 2 very bad situations in his first 2 years in the league. There's a reason why many projected him as the #1 overall pick back in, 2018 draft? Yeah, 2018. So I think you have to make life as easy as possible in 2020 for Sam. Get an offensive line, get some weapons, and then see what could happen. There's no way that after 2 years we could sit here and definitively say that he is not the guy. I think more signs have showed that he is the guy, who is a little bit flawed right now due to the system around him, his head coach, and the fact that he's a young quarterback who sometimes makes bad decisions. I really like his potential a lot. I think he could be very, very good for this team for a long time.
Yeah, look, I fall exactly in that same sort of spot. He was a top-rated quarterback for a reason. I think he has all the tools to go with it. If he didn't get mono last year, miss those 3 games, and we didn't have the injuries we had, and we didn't have a historically bad offensive line, I really think Sam Darnold is the truth. I have no doubt in my mind. And either way, even if you're going to argue that maybe Sam Darnold is not the guy, the number one thing you should be doing is putting every single chip into your basket into Sam Darnold, because in 3 years, if Sam Darnold is not the guy, you have a legitimate team around the next quarterback that could be coming in. David, what do you think? What do you think about Sam Darnold?
Well, I mean, dude, I'm one of the biggest Sam Darnold fans you'll meet. In case you guys haven't seen my picture with him, I took a pic with him after the Cowboy game where he went off after his return, and of course, I'm repping the jersey always, and like I said, he is now the best quarterback in the AFC East. Sorry, Josh Allen. Sorry, whoever the Miami Dolphins quarterback's going to be, and the Patriots quarterback, whoever he's going to be. Sorry, dude. We got the best quarterback in the division. I don't care. Bills fans, Dolphins fans, come at me. I really do not care. But regards to him in general, he's only 22 years old. I mean, personally, I didn't think we would draft him at number 3. I mean, I was extremely ecstatic when we did draft him. And being that he's went through pretty much 2 bad coaches, went through a bad coach in Todd Bowles, he's going through a lousy offensive system behind a historically bad offensive line, which is kind of course, one of the big influencers in regards to his decision-making. Is he still getting reckless with the ball at certain points? Yes, he is. Being that a lot of college quarterbacks going into the NFL, they're still trying to kind of steer away from trying to make that play in regards to making the right decision. So that's what Sam still has to work on. But however, his pocket awareness is definitely there. He needs to stop taking sacks, certain sacks. I meant he could definitely throw on the run. His arm's definitely there. He's maintaining chemistry with a lot of his guys, especially his tight ends. That's why we like Herndon and Griffin so much. There's no reason, especially now behind this new offensive line, and we get him a couple of playmakers in 2020. There's no reason to not believe Sam's not the guy for right now. It's just I can't buy into it.
So one of the things that our guys in the chat are bringing up, it was Dope Boy Doe says Sam Darnold is younger than Joe Burrow. He's actually 6 months younger than Joe Burrow. So, Sam Darnold has 2 years of NFL starting experience compared to these guys and could be young enough to be taken in the draft. Green Bean, how do you feel about Sam Darnold?
Right. I mean, this is absurd at this point. I mean, I see the argument for not being convinced by his play on the field. I do see it, but come on. The guy is 22 years old. He's the youngest starting quarterback in NFL history. He's already on his second offensive coordinator. They had 11 offensive line changes last year. He's an entirely different receiving core, new running backs. The guy has had the worst situation for any of the guys taken in his draft. Look at Lamar Jackson by comparison. Okay, they rebuilt the entire team around him. What did we do? We gave him Ryan Khalil. Okay, that's what we did. So I think Sam Darnold, I like what you said, is the truth. I know I'm too old to say shit like that, but I'm going to say it. Sam Darnold is the truth, man.
I love it.
And I love him. I believe him. Give him time. Look, Sam Darnold was 7-3 last year or whatever, 7-4. If you look at his games that he played last year, something like that, 7-5 maybe. And that was with the worst offensive line in the league, with no receiving core, with all those injuries. We had 9 guys or 11 guys on IR last year. Last year was an atrocity. Sam Darnold's stats were still better than his rookie season. He still improved, but evidenced by your video, Brian, which as I refer to often, my friend.
It was a good video.
It was very, very good.
It wasn't much improvement, but it did go up. He did improve from year 1 to year 2.
He did improve, but his situation degraded, and he still improved with mono and all the other crap. So I think Sam Darnold is absolutely our franchise quarterback. The only fear I have is that he's going to jump ship when we don't protect him and give him the right scenario to win. That's my fear.
Or he retires like Andrew Luck.
Yeah, that's the biggest fear. I mean, he's a smart dude. His dad is a neurosurgeon. He works in the same hospital as Josh Rosen's dad. There was actually like a little going back and forth between them in USC and UCLA. Let's get to our last question. DJ Sin 6 $1.99 donation. Thank you very much. Which Jets free agent looks better after our current moves? So I'm not exactly sure if he's asking which one of our current free agents look more appealing, or if there is a free agent out there that looks better now that we've made the moves we've currently made. We'll make this be the last question. Let's keep it short. Green Bean, what do you think about the free agents?
Well, I read that question as which free agent makes us look best. But then again,
however you want to answer it, I'm good either way.
Yeah, I'm going to answer it like this. I think the best free agent out there for us right now is Dante Fowler. I'd like to see Van Rotten brought in.
Mm-hmm.
And I would really like to sign Poole and Robbie Anderson. I think that would be a really solid free agency, and then we can work on the back end of our roster, see if guys are better than Mollett and all that kind of stuff. I'd like to see some of our guys signed. I'd like to see us in the positive on the comp pick situation for next year. And let's start that. There's going to be a year where we have to take it on the chin in order to to flip that and become comp pick positive. So I think this is the year. But that's pretty much the guys I'd like to see signed.
Matt, what do you think?
I agree with a lot of what Green Bean just said. For me, my first priority is getting both Robbie and Poole back here. After that, I'm giving Fowler $15 million a year and say, come go after the quarterback every play. I don't care about you setting the edge. We will find someone else to do that for a third of what you are going to cost us. And then from there, I would just look at maybe corner, maybe take a swing at someone at corner. I think that's probably the 4 spots.
David, what do you think?
I would have to agree. I think the 2 other free agents that really come to mind now for me at this point, Dante Fowler being number 1. I definitely think he's the best pass rusher etiquette free agent that we would get on this roster. If I don't want to exactly break the bank for him, but I'm willing to give him that $13, $14 million a year, that considerable amount of money, because I think he would be the guy that will bring the most legitimacy to the Jets. And then after Dante Fowler, I'd be looking forward to bringing back Robbie Anderson. I definitely want to bring back our best offensive weapon, for Sam. And then I'm looking at bringing back Brian Poole. And once I'm done bringing back Brian Poole, I'm looking at the Greg Van Dorn or the Stefan Wisniewski. I think all 4 of those guys, I think, are my main priorities. And then once you're done with that, then you can start looking at the back end of the roster, like Green Bean just said. And I'm closing out the show with this. Guys, once again, Sam Darnold, future MVP, best quarterback in the AFC East. Let's build around him properly. Let's build the free agency strong, and let's go into the draft. As excited as us Jet fans can be, let's go Jets, man. I'm freaking pumped up.
Robbie Anderson, Brian Poole, Dante Fowler. Let's call it a day. Boys, I had a lot of fun with you. We're going to be back here next week if you guys want to tune in with us. J-E-T-A!